further business with the discussion of MSBUs and MSTUs, we have with us today our Budget Director, Gordon Berger, Commissioner Ken Doherty, and our County Attorney, Jeff Milton, who are all here to answer your questions. That we might not be familiar with within those two particular items. If that's all right with you, I'd like to move on to new business. Is that okay? So not a bit. All right. You guys are on. Is there any questions you'd like to ask them? Here they are. Okay, Tom, right.
All right, I guess I'll get started. We certainly heard a lot about MSTUs, MSBUs, and even from our elected officials, there's some unease that things are working well. So first question is, how do you determine if an MSTU or an MSBU is working appropriately, or something needs to be done to it?
I'll keep going. I'll start it off. Well, Tom, the first aspect of the system is the fact that not all the MSBUs and MSTUs have citizens advisory committees. Kevin, I can't remember what year it was that the proposal was made by the Charter Review Commission to allow that, or actually specify that if a certain number of residents in a particular MSBU or TU wanted to form a committee, the language is in the charter. What we found, after I got elected, I found that there were quite a few, working with administration, so quite a few MSBUs that had no representation, had no citizens advisory committee. And it seems to be, that seems to be the aspect of it that created some of the MSBUs that were having problems, or at least perceived problems. Their work programs were not getting a citizen neighborhood review. Just an example, Punta Gorda non-urban, Ridge Harbor, Palm Shores, Charlotte Park. It's a mixture of subdivisions that were platted decades ago that had no nucleus of a group to provide guidance to public works. And I'm talking about primarily road and drainage MSBUs right now, where you go to Deep Creek, you go to Harbor Heights, or you go to Rotunda, Northwest Port Charlotte. They have very active citizen advisory groups that provide input to staff continuously, really. They meet quite frequently. And as to the budget, the work programs that they want to see, propose what services they want to have, resurfacing or whatever. And South Gulf Cove, another example, where they're working very well. Now, there's always issues with you hire a contractor to do some work and the people are not satisfied with the workmanship or things of that nature. But essentially, the MSBUs that are working well seem to be the ones that have citizen advisory committees. So what we did about 2 years ago, when I recognized it, I shared with my colleagues that I think until there are citizen advisory committees for these MSBUs, we need to function. The Board of County Commissioners needs to function as that group. So we went through a very exhaustive process this last budget cycle, going through South Punta Gorda Heights, I can't name them all, but we went through and decided and worked through, working with staff, what types of programs we were going to initiate. One of the things that was grossly neglected over, I'd say, the last 20 years was resurfacing in a lot of these MSBUs. I mean, the roads were falling apart. It was embarrassing going over to Salona and other places in Punta Gorda, where the roads were falling apart because there really wasn't any push to get it done. So we took that role. So I don't know if that answered it for you, but that seems to be what I'm seeing is where the nexus is. If you have a citizens advisory committee, it seems to be running along reasonably well because they are able to vet the programs and work with public works.
Are you trying to get citizens involved with those MSBUs?
During the public hearings, yeah, Julie.
That don't have?
Right. Okay. During the public hearings, we were, I think I mentioned that, maybe some of the other board members too. I strongly encourage them to get together and try to get some neighbors involved and see if they can help out. But you can't force folks to do that. So I think my colleagues have decided, we've decided as a board, if we don't have committees, will function as the de facto Citizens Advisory Committee. We ultimately have that responsibility anyways, to approve the budget. But we have a Citizens Advisory Committee, like Deep Creek and Harbor Heights and Rotunda and so forth, Greater Port Charlotte. It helps us a lot because they carry the bulk of the load in making sure that the programs are what they want.
Actually, if I may be a little more specific, in the last, I don't know if it's 6 months, at least within the last 9 months, that's one of the things. We are looking at the whole MS, as I said to the subcommittee that I met with back in October. We are looking at least my offices, and we're expanding that, the whole MSBU process. And 6 to 9 months ago, we started with doing away with 9 advisory boards that were inactive. Getting rid of those advisory boards because for over a year, we couldn't get, some of them were 5 years, we could not get a single citizen in that group to step up and be part of an advisory board to help Public Works provide input. So we did away with those, and the board took those over. The other thing we did in the last 6 months was went back and for, I forget how many, 4 of the inactive MSBUs or MSBUs that had accomplished their stated purpose, we sunsetted those. Gulf City Waterway, I think, was one of them. And then the final thing that we've already accomplished was gone through and revamped the board rules of procedures for all of the advisory board, MSBU, MSTU advisory boards, so that they're all operating under the same rules of procedure, provides continuity and fairness to all of those boards. And then we're still going through a review process. We will be, and I guess it's okay to tell everybody, we are working with the foremost state experts on these issues, Neighbors and Giblin law firm, to take a look at our process to see where we can make improvements in the processes, whether it is the methodology that we use, and also to help on some specific issues that we have, like the Minnesota Key beach renourishment issue, to help advise in those areas to make sure that we get everything done correctly. So it is a process, it is being reviewed, and I would say where you said they were problematic, they are reviewed. The work programs were reviewed, even if it wasn't done by the board. It was reviewed by staff and developed by staff. The problem was we didn't have a citizens advisory board to provide input and buy-in into the work program. So, but the board has taken over that burden now.
Yeah, thank you. I know the question of, or the answer to, whether these units are working, is very subjective.
Yeah.
But I think the question really went to, are they working? Are they benchmarks? That's what I would ask. Not, what are some of the symptoms that are problematic of them? Let me ask something that's objective. Some of the criticism, and it was mentioned that the MSTUs, the taxing units, can, and I don't want to use the word circumvent, get around, because that implies a motive. But for, just in layman's terms, can they circumvent the 10% state law of tax increases?
10 mils.
Not 10%, it's 10 mils.
Right, well, whatever it is there a mechanism to get around that? I'm not saying it's not for that intention.
I wouldn't say it's a mechanism to do that. I would say that's part of the...
As a result of it.
It is a result.
Right. Has anyone ever challenged the legality of that? Because if state law says you can't raise taxes more than 10 mil, I question how can you create this entity, which is self-created?
State law provides that you can.
Municipal service taxing unit and municipal service benefit unit, the key is municipal. So if you were residing within a city, such as Punta Gorda, you would have 2 layers there. Same type of thing. We're providing, the county is providing municipal services, so therefore there is a structure set up to allow them to provide municipal services without, that extra burden of having to take it all out of all the other things that the county has to do. So it's because of the lack of incorporated areas that we have.
Yeah, I understand the rationale But I'm wondering, you know,
That's why it was
the
set up.
ethical implication to say that sheriff services or fire rescue services are city services, so we can take advantage of the state law and exceed 10 mil. Is that how we want to govern? I mean, I just question it, and because, you know, I listen to the people that come in, and any of you that know that I've been on committees, I am sympathetic to the citizens. And I truly believe that, it's not just something written down 240 years ago, that, you know, that some suggest is just a flawed document. You know, if government fails, let it be because of the people.
I think.
And I wonder, what is the rationale then for doing it? Why isn't it just part of the tax base?
Okay, and that's a great question, and you almost really have to go back to 1980. If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
But let me ask then, why do we continue to do it?
I'll try to
Regardless of how it got to this point.
But it's important that you understand what was going on in 80, actually the mid-70s.
This is 26.
Your road system, I'm talking about road and drainage maintenance right now. Okay,